Wise man, how can I protect my credit score?
Use Capital One's free CreditWise app for alerts of your credit report.
Well, I've been spending all my money on weed and pills, trying to write a song that'll pay the bills, but it ain't came yet. Guess I have to rob a bank. I guess it could be worse, ain't that bad. At least I ain't sitting no Baghdad in the middle of the hot day of death, sitting in a tank. Well, time the wife talks, so baby gets mentioned. I'm so broke, I can't pay attention. Lord, how it tears me up to have to see her crying. Oh, I've been spending all my nights on the internet, looking for a clue, but ain't found one yet. Just a bunch of Mopars, guitars, and other shit I can't find. Well, now, Lord, if you can hear me, won't you throw a damn dog a bone? If a devil shows up with a deader deal, his whole soul's going down. Oh, I sing 'em real pretty, sing 'em real sad, and all the people in the crowd say, ain't that bad. Well, now call me King Turd up here from Shit Mountain. If you want it, you can have the crown. Well, I've been sitting on my ass like a bump on a log, watching Andy and old Boss Hogg. I guess I ought to get up and go out and find a job. Instead of sitting on the couch trying to find the next line, I'm sure there's gotta be a better use of my time, like figuring out which one of them banks I'm gonna go rob. Well, the name of the game is hurry up and wait low, but that ain't putting no food on my plate or gas in my car. I drive a Bronco. Oh, now, Lord, if I could just give me a record deal, I might not have to worry about my next meal, but I'd still be trying to figure out what the fuck rhymes with Bronco. Oh, now, Lord, if you can hear me, won't you throw a damn dog a bone? 'Cause if a devil shows up with a better deal, his whole soul's going down. Oh, I sing 'em real pretty, sing 'em real sad, and all the people in the crowd say you ain't half bad. Well, they call me King Turd of Hell Shit Mountain. If you want it, you can have the crown. Well, they call me King Turd of Hell Shit Mountain. If you want it, you can have the crown. Oh, I'm getting pretty tired of state things are in. Sometimes I feel like cutting a vein, just watching it bleed. Oh, I'm tired of laying it down, getting nothing on the other end. And people only want to be your friend when you got something they need. Oh, I'm getting pretty tired of being treated like competition, when the only one that can hold me down is inside my head. Oh, what's the honky gotta do around here? Get a little recognition. Starting to think it might be worth more to everybody if I was dead. Oh, now some days you kill it, and some days you just choke. Some days you blast off, some days you just smoke. Oh, now maybe I do, Lord, maybe I don't. Everybody says to be there, but in the end, y'all know they won't. Oh, I'm getting pretty tired, sitting around wasting time. And I'm tired of taking blame when I ain't done nothing wrong. Oh, I'm tired of other people trying to take what's mine. Oh, now I'm tired of y'all playing dress up and trying to sing them old country songs. Oh, now some days you kill it, some days you choke, some days you blast on, some days you just smoke. Oh, now maybe I do, Lord, maybe I don't. Everybody says to be there, but in the end, y'all know they won't. Oh, now maybe I do, Lord, maybe I don't. Well, they all say to be there, but in the end, y'all know they won't. Oh, that label man said, son, now can you sing a little bit more clear? Said your voice might be too country next to what they've been here. Can you sing a little more about outlaws and the way things used to be? Said you just worry about writing them songs, leave everything else to me. Well, my daddy never wrote any old famous country songs. Papa never stayed out raising hell with the Haggard Jones. But he raised a proud coal miner's daughter, and I'm proud to be her son. She told me, boy, I don't care if you hit it big, because you're already #1. And that's the way it goes in this day and age. Well, you ain't gotta read between the lines, now you just gotta turn the page. Well, the most outlaw thing that a man today can do is give a woman a ring, and that's the way it goes. Life ain't fair and the world is mean. Well, I still got the wife and my dog, but I swapped the truck out for a van. Gonna hit the road, find the end of that long white line with a 3-piece band. You won't hear my song on the radio, see me on the CMA, but you can always find me in a smoky bar with bad sound and a dim lit stage. 'Cause that's the way it goes in this day and age. You ain't gotta read between the lines, now you just gotta turn the page. Well, the most outlaw thing that I ever done was find a good woman, give her a ring, and that's the way it goes. Life ain't fair and the world is mean. That's the way it goes. Life ain't fair and the world is mean. I won't be round this old town anymore for a long, long time. Gonna hit the road, start looking for the end of the long white line. Gonna hit the road, start looking for the end of that long white line. Went to the bank, get my dough, I don't care where I go. Gonna push that rig till I push that girl out of my mind. If somebody wants to know what's become of this so-and-so, tell them I'm somewhere looking for you in that long white line. Tell them I'm somewhere looking for you in that long white line. This old rig is humming and rolling, she's doing fine. If somebody wants to know what's becoming of this so-and-so, tell them I'm somewhere looking for you in the long white line. Tell them I'm somewhere looking for you in that long white line. I won't be round this old town anymore for a long, long time. Thank y'all. We love you.
Alexa, play my road trip playlist. Cool.
I've seen Jesus play with flames in a lake of fire that I was standing in. Met the devil in Seattle, spent 9 months inside the lion's den. Met Buddha yet another time, he showed me a glowing light within. But I swear that God is there every time I go to the eyes of my best friend. Says, my son, it's all been done. Someday you're gonna wake up old and gray.
Now we're live. You could tell I'm a little rusty because I've been muted for the last couple minutes. But anyways, what I was saying is welcome back. Nice to see everybody. It's been a while. I really don't know how long it's been. But I do know it's been a long time. I've been slammed with work, personal life, and everything else. Business has been crazy, which is good, but it's just been booming, which means I've been extra busy. Some late nights. Some early mornings, and then my wife actually had back surgery the beginning of October, and has been recovering from that. So I've been in kind of, crazy mode between work and that and everything else. So it's been hard to kind of get this in, and I haven't really even been able to keep up with my actual teams as much as I'd like to either. So it's kind of hard to do everything. But needless to say, everything's going good. She's doing better. My mother-in-law is here helping us out. And I'm finding some more time to sneak stuff like this in and figuring everything out. So it's been good. Really happy to be back. Really excited to be back. Of course, I've been keeping up in the Slack channel because I can kind of do that while I'm driving around town, doing meetings, in between meetings and so forth. And then, of course, reading all of Husker's Mazes, which is always great. It's been keeping me involved even though I haven't been doing the show. So I love seeing those, reading everything. It's been really awesome. And we've had a really fun season this season as well. So that's been good, but it's just great to be back doing this, breaking everything down. We're probably going to have a very long show tonight. I'm going to go conference by conference in Division 1. We're going to have a special guest on, but what we're going to do is kind of break down the conference, talk about the interesting teams, interesting storylines that happen within that conference. We'll talk about some of the major shows, some of the major games that are out there for the bowl games. And then I'll probably let him drop off. And then I will go ahead and go through Division 1 AA and do my predictions for the bracket and go through that. So probably definitely going to be over an hour. I definitely don't expect everyone to be on the whole time. But it'll be a good for at least a replay tomorrow over the weekend and kind of go through it. But I definitely wanted to kind of take some time and break everything down since I haven't been here. So what we're going to do, give me about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. I'm going to go jump on, grab our special guest, and I will be right back.
Go and try and have some fun, showing warmth to everyone. Meet and greet, cheat along the way. There's a gateway in our minds that leads somewhere out there, far beyond this plane. We're reptile aliens made of light, cut you open and pull out all your pain. Tell me how you make illegal something that we all make in our brain. Some say you might go crazy, then again it might make you go insane. Every time you take a look inside that old fabled book, blinded and blinded up. Pain caused by some old man in the sky.
All right, guys, that was pretty quick. We are back. I have a special guest on the line. We haven't tested audio because I don't have all my audio settings set up. So, special guest, are you there? All right, say it one more time because I had you muted.
The Big 12 champion is here.
Okay, and of course that's everybody's favorite Big 12 championship. The champion himself, CJ, will be joining us for this nice long podcast going over Division I. CJ, how you doing tonight?
Great. How are you, TD?
I am doing splendid. I actually had to rush here. I was almost late. I was at a work event, had to go to the grocery store. Stopped here, but we got in on time. We're doing a podcast.
Nice.
So the world.
Hey, you had a nice little comeback there today.
I did, and we'll break into that, but I really wanted to start in the Big 12. So we'll get into that when we get to Conference USA. But you are the champion, and I think it surprised a lot of people, including myself. So let's start in the Big 12. We're going conference by conference. Let's not take too much time and just jump right into it. What were the storylines in your conference this season, and how did you pull out the victory?
Well, so, it's funny. I was going through, I always go through this whenever the conference schedules come out. That to me is a telltale of, who's really has the best chance to win their division. If you get hit with Texas and Oklahoma in non-conference and you're in the North Division, that can definitely hurt you. So, I always like to look at that real early on. And I saw I had Texas. And then I was going to end the regular season with Nebraska, and I had Missouri mixed in there. So I kind of went into this thinking I'd lose to Texas and then drop one between Missouri and Nebraska. But I got to tell you, what kept me alive in basically all of these games was having one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And, it's not I've kind of trended away from making that a huge priority, but Lions fan gifted me this Gregory Price quarterback, and he's been flat out amazing and has come through in some of the big moments this season. So that really was what did it in for me.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, not only do you have the best quarterback in the country, but then even your one loss, which was to Texas, was triple overtime. And I've said this many a times, when you get to overtime in Wiz, it might as well be a coin flip.
That's definitely the case.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely the case. If there's one game I probably played better than I should have, it was that game against Nebraska. He had 3 turnovers in that game, one of which was a fumble. In a couple seasons, that's not going to happen. That was only 4 formation IQ, that being low. So, throughout the whole season, that game was probably the one I felt the most outcoached in. And then the game that I had with Missouri, I thought I was playing really well for most of that, and then he came back late in the fourth quarter, found a way to tie it and send it to overtime, and I didn't feel like I had any business winning that one either. But, really the rest of the season, I thought I did a pretty good job. But I got to tell you, the storyline that nobody's really talking about in the Big 12 is how good Texas A&M was this season. And that, I think, is the next Big 12 power to develop as long as he can continue to recruit the Dallas College Station area and maybe dip into Louisiana some. Texas A&M was really good, and then I think they cemented themselves by going toe-to-toe with Texas last game of the season and only losing that one by 14. But, I mean, they beat Pitt, best 2-11 team in the country, beat Tampa Fly, beat Tennessee there by a point, and then got into the Big 12 and just kind of had some rough games. But I was really impressed with what Arcade Cowboy did.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of unpack a little bit what you talked about, I mean, looking at your schedule, you had that triple overtime loss to Texas. You had the double overtime win over Missouri. And then you had the just kind of almost a blowout against Nebraska. And I was just looking at that Nebraska game while you were talking, and there was over 1,200 yards of offense in that game.
Yeah.
And he had 3 turnovers like you talked about. You think maybe if he has one less turnover, he might pull that one out. But even then, your team still put up 621 yards of offense. So, yeah, maybe you didn't stop him that much, but you still got 3 turnovers. But you still put up a lot of yards. So it's not like you did something, too crazy and stole one. I still think it was a pretty solid win on your part.
Well, that game and the 3 turnovers, I think, kind of shows you the magic of what AWAGS does. And the magic, I think, is what Pete coined as the snowball effect.
Yep.
And that is basically if somebody throws an interception inside of like their own 25-yard line after the opponent has already scored, and then the opponent goes right back down and scores, well, then the opposing team is now completely worn out. So when that happens, you can really start to the snowball of scoring 21, 28 points. So, he started scoring really quickly. If he had just recovered one of those onside kicks he kicked late in the game, that's going to take away one of my touchdowns and probably add another one of his, and all of a sudden it's a 3-point game and it could go either way. That's kind of why I felt like I got the win by 17, but that game was a whole lot closer than the scoreboard indicated.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, the Big 12 is pretty crazy. Going back to your quarterback, though, Gregory Price, I just pulled up his stats. The guy threw 0 interceptions his entire career, and he started as a junior, as a redshirt junior. Yeah. So that's pretty crazy. I mean, that just even goes to show you just how great a good just how much a good quarterback means to your team.
If you throw a pick as the quarterback of Colorado, we kill you. So
you're just gone. You're strung up. So
there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. So you talked about it a little bit. You think Arcade Cowboys the next powerhouse, and those are some big words. But I mean, this is a great overall conference now. You got yourself. You got Jason Freeman, who obviously is a great coach. Everything we saw him do in Cal in this world. Hypno Toad, who's got a ton of big upsets and played you really tough this season. And then you got the legend BK Drives over at Texas. You got Blitzes coming, who's another legend. You got Arcade Cowboy, who says the next powerhouse. And then you got Oklahoma State, who put up a decent season and is only going to get better. So, I mean, you guys are really doing a lot of things. I mean, I don't know if you can really say Texas A&M can be the next powerhouse when you have this much competition. It's almost like a Big East where you guys aren't necessarily full like them, but the quality of coaches that are here, they're all just going to beat each other up.
Well, the Big East is deep. We're incredibly top heavy. The thing kind of about our conference in that North Division is, so like Missouri was great last season. I was kind of a year away. Next season, I'm going to be in a complete rebuild mode. I lose Gregory Price, my quarterback. I lose the top running back. I've got a lot of players on defense I'm going to have to replace. That's going to be absolutely brutal. So like next season, we're going to look a lot like Missouri did this season, right around between 8 to 10 wins, I think. Missouri's going to look better, but I can tell you next season, keep your eye on Nebraska. I think that is a legitimate championship contender. I think Texas A&M is going to be right there in the thick of things. Texas A&M's got 2 really good quarterbacks between Gary Miller and Kenneth McCabe. Those are going to be 2 really nice players to watch. And Oklahoma, I think, is going to be a little bit more experienced next season too, and so they're only going to be better. So, we've got a really fun conference. We are top heavy, but it's just going to look a little bit different each year. I think kind of like the Big East right now is starting to become West Virginia and Syracuse, and then maybe every once in a while Louisville.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you guys got to have a ton of bowl money. I mean, you got the number 5, 9, 8, 6, and 17 team, and a 34 sprinkled in there. So
we
bowl
hit
money-wise,
65,000.
That's all right. So I didn't want to ask you in case you didn't want to say, but the problem is with the Big 12 and bowl money is all those teams are so freaking close. You guys always run into each other. So the key, and I always tell people, is yes, you want to beat your conference mate for the best recruits, but you also have to find a way to actually use your bowl money as an advantage.
No, you're right. You are right. Now, I mean, the South Division, they're close. Really, though, the North, I mean, Nebraska and Missouri are somewhat close. I'm all the way out in Colorado. I really don't run into Big 12 opponents unless they just want to come out to my area.
No, you only run into Houston for wide receivers. That's it.
Yeah, but I only need to drop, like $2 or $3 grand to get that battle. No, but I mean, like the Big 12, Missouri pretty much sticks to his area. I think he and Nebraska will battle each other every once in a while. And then Oklahoma and Texas are, I don't know if you know this, but the way their classes are, when Texas has to sign, 16 recruits, Oklahoma only needs about 5 or 6. So they alternate like that and kind of play off of each other. And that has actually helped both of them grow really well. What they've done is actually really, really smart.
I wonder if that was on purpose, though, because I know Blitz has talked about that a lot in the Slack channel. And I wonder if that was just coincidence, the way their rosters ended up, or if that was done on purpose by one of them just looking at that as being a problem. So, be interesting.
I don't know. It would be worth asking, and I think it's something, like the Big East, I think. When you've got 12 teams and they're all in the same area, that I think is maybe an idea to throw around in your conference. And I don't have any issue with that because I don't think it's anything near collusion. I mean, you're strategic. You're strategically positioning your teams to recruit a certain way. It's not like you're discussing a certain recruit. But I think, you look at Oklahoma and Texas right now, both teams over the next couple of seasons are going to contend for the title, and you're going to see super experienced teams just on opposite seasons.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. It'll be,
I like what they've done.
It'll be fun to look at. All right, so that's the Big 12. Congrats on your win. That was a big victory. Like I said,
Thank
you definitely surprised myself. And it wasn't that I definitely don't think you're a bad coach and you had a good team. There's just so many good teams there. It's hard to pick one, and it's hard to pick against 3 different elites. So, but it was a very impressive win. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
All right, so let's jump back to the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC. Winner of that one was Miami with the GOAT, obviously taking over after Bama being there for a long time. They played Boston College, who ended up ranked number 12. They went 8-1, 12-2 overall. Bad Axe actually had a pretty decent season. I mean, he was 9-4, but he ended up number 24 at Florida State. Clemson, the newer coach, and Coach Goody over there, ended up 9-4, ranked 38 overall. Our buddy Maryland got the last bowl game over there at with Phil Fulmer at number 49. And then you got North Carolina pulling out really a good season, coming in at number 14, 10-3 overall, 2-2 in conference play. And then you kind of got Duke, Virginia Tech, and Virginia pulling up the rear in that conference. I mean, what was impressive to you? What kind of stands out to you in that ACC and conference?
Well, I think this is the conference that, to me, feels like it's a couple of seasons away from being near the top in Wilkinson. There's just a lot of things right now to like, but there's so many things that, currently in rebuild mode. So, like, if I had to label this conference, I'd say coming soon. There'd be like a construction zone in the background. You look at Miami, the team that won this conference, off to a rough start, dropping their last 3 non-conference games to Oklahoma, LSU, West Virginia, and dropping all of them by double digits. That kind of hurts. But, the good news is they came into conference play, beat Florida State handedly, beat UNC handedly, and then they beat Boston College during the conference championship. So I think that's a sign of things to come for Miami, and I do think that team's going to be very, very good in the next couple of seasons. Florida State with Bad Axe, he had a rebuild this season, didn't really recruit well, so that was something to pay attention to. Got a little bit of a late start. I don't know that I would categorize that as a great season for him, even though he was rebuilding. I think he could have done a little bit better there. Boston College, a little bit of an off season for Laswell and that team. You look at their quarterback situation, there's a lot of 1AA teams with better quarterback situations. So, he was a little down. But I think overall this conference, Clemson's going to be really good soon. Maryland, I think, is going to be a really fun team soon. And I look at UNC, too. I don't think they're going away anytime soon. So there's a lot of things to like about the ACC. The key to this conference becoming what the Big 12 or the Big East, though, is Florida State becoming a really elite and being consistent in the top 15. You got to have those consistent level 5 and level 4 finishes to get the bowl money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I 100% agree with you. I mean, the non-elites in this conference, at least the top two, with Phil Fulmer at Maryland, and then you got Genuvar in North Carolina. Those two are always going to do what they need to do at a non-elite, which is being the, Phil will probably be in the top 15 next year, if not another season away with that rebuild. Gen's going to consistently be there, so they're going to do their jobs being a non-elite, probably be in the top 10 every once in a while. But you really need, Miami's won the last 10 conference championships, even back to Bama, but they never made the big game. They were consistently, they consistently maybe in the season number 2 because they won their bowl game, but they never actually made it there. So you need to go to kind of take that team, take it to the next level, and then I 100% agree with you. You really need Florida State and Boston College, which may not be an elite in name, but is an elite in status, or vice versa, I guess. You need those two teams to be consistently top 10. And really, when you look at it, you need them to win big out-of-conference games, because that's when I look at these guys. They do pretty decent in conference, but they're losing their games out of conference against other elites. And that's what needs to happen to take the next step, because I agree with you. ACC is kind of they're the conference. It's like, well, they have great schools as far as recruiting from, and they have great coaches, but at the end of the year, you don't see a lot of results, right? We have a lot of national championships coming out of the Big 12, the Pac-12, or the Big 10, and that's pretty much it. So,
well, the good thing about it is I would say you've got 6 coaches that have all had a considerable amount of success in Wilkinson. I mean, Laswell has won championships here. Bad Axe has done very, very well at multiple places. Coach Odie, we know, is good. Phil Fulmer, we know, is good. DeGoat has had a lot of success, championship there at Northeastern, and Genuver's had a lot of success as well. So if the coaches stay for the next 3 to 5 seasons, the ACC, I think, eventually will be really good. The key is going to be, can Florida State recruit against Florida, and can they be a consistent top 15 team? Because if they can't, then that is going to hurt the rest of the conference not getting that level 4 or level 5 bowl. And you look at the SEC this season. I mean, Tennessee and LSU, 2 of your elites, don't get to a level 3 or better bowl. That hurts you in recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I mean, they're great coaches. We just need to see them have success at these schools, and I think that will be the biggest kind of the jump moving forward.
Agreed.
All right. So let's move on to the Big East. My favorite conference in all of GD, just because
so much fun.
How many legendary coaches are here, and how many just great schools they're at. I mean, I don't even know where to start. You got the Grump Boy, who kind of, I don't want to say shocked everybody, but just looking at the coaches without even looking at rosters. If I just looked at the coaches and then what teams they were at and thinking about recruiting areas, I would have not picked the Grump Boy to finish off this conference number 1 and be in contention to play in a national championship game. I mean, what are your thoughts about this season here and with this conference?
So when I was at Virginia Tech, I played the Grunt Boy in a non-conference game, and I knew then we went back and forth. I think I won at like 61-58, and I'm like, I don't know that he'll ever be super successful here, but I can tell you this: he's the biggest headache of a coach to play, because he goes into games, and I'm fairly certain he just does not care one crap about defense. I don't think he cares. I think he's only going into it with putting together a super, super complex offensive game plan, and 75% of the time, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, he goes into Alabama, only loses by 3 points. And when he did that this season, that to me was the biggest clue. Oh, West Virginia is going to be really, really good, because Alabama has been dominant all of the season except for today. He struggled a little bit with Temple, but I mean, have you ever seen a coach score 98 points in a conference championship?
Yeah, definitely not. No.
I mean,
I haven't seen a coach
absurd.
do half the thing he's done. I mean, if you look, first of all, he plays in the Big East. You don't have to schedule a hard out of conference. If anything, if I was in that conference, I would play all Sims. He played 3 elites, and he lost to 1 and only by 3 points. And it was the first game of the season.
The non-elite that he scheduled was Minnesota, which is strongly considered
in this
better
world, it's
program
almost
than
elite.
like Florida and Florida State.
Yeah, absolutely. In this world with Kent State and what he's done there lately, it's almost borderline elite. And then he had 1 sim on there, and then he just ran it down everybody's throat and somehow lost to Temple, like you said. I mean, it's nuts what he was able to do. So,
well, and next season it gets better. He's got Alabama, Nebraska, and Miami. Oh, and he went really soft with his non-elite and scheduled C break.
You're right. Yeah, which we'll get into a little bit later. But, I mean, hats off to him. I mean, he's really proven himself. He's not only playing tough people in out of conference, but he's part of this conference, which is just a gauntlet. I mean, on the flip side, you look at somebody like BJ over at Pittsburgh, and unfortunately in a conference like this, you're going to have seasons of great coaches who go 2-11 because you have to play everybody, and it is a gauntlet.
2-11 and then the top 50. I mean, that's how good the conference is.
Exactly. I mean, you say the best 2-11 team this season, I say the best 2-11 team of all time. I mean, it's I can't remember a team that's been ranked that high with that bad. You know, it's nuts. And I barely pulled out a win. I unfortunately was so busy I didn't even game plan my first two games. Unfortunately for BJ, I got back just enough time, finally put a game plan together and beat him by 1. So I mean, it took everything I had to finally get a win, beat him by 1, and then he goes and beats Pete at Hawaii. Like, what the heck? Like, that's not an easy game. So it's
I mean,
nuts.
You look at this conference and just that East Division alone. I mean, the coaching there is absolutely phenomenal. Like, between the Grunt Boys, Z32, and GT Deuce, I don't know who I would pick to be a better coach. And then the other 3 are maybe in kind of a different category, but they're all good coaches too. Maybe not as revered as that top 3 that I mentioned, but all really good coaches. And you look at the West Division, I mean, it's Ebel, it's Osball, Tampa Fall has been good. And you're going to see some turnover in the conference this season, but, I mean, this thing is just so much fun. I'll tell you this, if the rumor that Pete may leave for the Big East, if that comes to fruition, this conference is just going to be that much more amazing.
I'd like to see who has a better resume, me or Pete, as far as maybe the last 2 seasons I guess you'd have to go off of. But
between you and Pete,
yeah, it'd be close.
Probably just him, because I think he's got 2 conference championships now.
Well, I got 2 conference championships last 2 seasons.
Oh, do you? He's got 3. He's won 3 straight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he won the Gator Bowl, won the Outback Bowl, so those bowl wins count for something.
It may come down to whoever wins their bowl this year.
Well, there you go.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is my favorite conference. It'll be interesting to see with Allen leaving Rutgers. He's got a ton of talent on that team, so anybody can step in and find success. But BJ's team, just looking at the scores, he only lost by 5 to West Virginia. He only lost by 11 to Connecticut. I mean, he lost by 4 to Cincinnati. I mean, my heart just breaks for the dude, because that's a rough season.
Yeah, well, I mean, like some of these losses too. UCLA lost that one by 14. UCLA's a good team.
Well, he got shut out by who? Syracuse, I think. It's 58-0.
Yeah, he did get shut out by Syracuse. So that's his one really ugly loss.
Yeah, I mean, it's just bizarre. And then you have all those close ones. So especially the one, the Grunt Boy, that was by 5 points. So expect obviously a big turnaround. But yeah, it'll be fun to see who leaves that conference, who picks it up. But it's definitely fun to look at.
Yeah.
All right. Off to the Big Ten. Lions fan is obviously there in Michigan. They finished number 20. Wisconsin with Paul stepping in. I think only his second year at number 18. Wisconsin was another great year. Coming in at number 18. Obviously, we talked about Minnesota, Michigan State with another Husker guy. Husker 68-144. Notre Dame, a CFB fan, ended up the conference champion at number 13. and beating Penn State, who was going in undefeated, who still made the national championship, coming at number 2. And then Roxy with another kind of mediocre season coming in at number 26 at Ohio State. I mean, I think the biggest thing to really talk about is Notre Dame's upset of Penn State in that conference championship, and the fact that Penn State still managed to get into that national championship. What do you think?
Well, there's a couple things to talk about. We'll get into one before we end the conference, and it's a storyline that I don't think you're going to mention, but I think it makes the conference a bit intriguing over these next few seasons. But yeah, you're right. Notre Dame winning the conference championship. I just think it goes to show you when CFB Fan 18 is engaged, he is one of the top 5 one of the top 5 coaches just in all of GD. He's a coach that definitely has to game plan. He cannot stick in a game plan, just let that roll and find ways to win. I mean, he got blown out by Stanford, lost by 17 to Texas. Bama beat him by 24. And then he gets into conference play, beats Ohio State, beats Penn State by 13, and then beat a really good Michigan team today by 5. So, I mean, somewhat because of what happened in non-conference, still a little bit unproven. But you can see what he's able to do when he's able to game plan. He's a really tough coach to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I 100% agree with that. When he game plans, he can beat anybody, right? So it's, and I mean, obviously, I've felt the issues and the struggles of having a busy life and trying to find time to game plan. And I think it just comes down to it. I kind of had to just fit it in my schedule. And every night before I go to bed now, I sit down, I do a game plan. I set, even if it's just 15 minutes aside in the middle of the day during a busy schedule, to look at it, to at least try to find that success. So hopefully he can do it because, like you said, when he does it, he can beat anybody no matter what the talent is. So
yeah.
So
the other thing, TD, is if you look at his team, a lot of his starters are fairly young. So, I mean, he's got most of these defensive backs coming back. His best linebackers, his 3 best linebackers, will all be back next season. So, that definitely is going to pan out for him. He's got a really good defensive line that will be back. And he's got a really great set of receivers. He's going to have all of those starters back next season as well.
His young wide receivers are better than his seniors. So.
Oh, no, they are. Yeah. He's got some really solid young players. So Notre Dame's going to be a team that I think they win the Big Ten this season. They're 2 seasons away from being where he wants them to be. So if that's the case, this is going to be a top 3 to 5 team over these next couple of seasons, the way they're playing right now.
Absolutely. And I actually, with that redshirt junior, who'll be a redshirt senior next year, I mean, I expect him to contend next year because after that, he's going to have to start another redshirt junior. So
yeah,
I think this year and then maybe the year after that one are probably his best chances. So what's the other storyline you were mentioning in this conference?
Okay, so this is one that on the front does not look like a big storyline, but if nobody picks this up, it will be. So Husker 68144 is going to lose his job at the end of the season. He's in the Fort Worth Bowl. That's a level 1 bowl job. If he loses that, he's definitely out. If he wins, I still think he gets fired from that job. So that means Michigan State becomes available. And I think if Michigan is given their entire state to recruit with, because you look at the saturation right now in Wilkinson and how many coaches we have, you give Michigan that much room, they're now going to be at a much bigger advantage than what he's been the past couple of seasons. So that, I think, for Lions fan, that transition there at Michigan State is actually a big play for him over the next few seasons in the conference.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, I definitely expect somebody to pick up that team just because it's a BCS conference and they've had a human coach. So at least the talent isn't as bad as picking up a sim and completely restarting. But we'll see what happens. Yeah. I mean, it's still not a fun job. It's not appealing.
No.
I can tell you that
But
much.
if I were going to pick up a Big Ten team, I think I'd want to pick up Iowa instead. Because you're more secluded out there and you get a lot of access to a lot of different recruits. I mean, you can put together a good team at Iowa. Michigan State, you're going to get 1 or 2 kids out of your own state, and then you got to kind of venture out and find your own guys. So I don't think Michigan State's really that good of a job.
Definitely not. No, it's not a good job. But as far as in Wilkinson, though, I do think that human coach teams are coveted a little bit more, but no, I agree with you. It's not very appealing. So
Yeah.
we'll kind of
Well,
keep
and
an eye on
that team is losing a lot of players too. I mean, you're a roster that probably would not make it into the 1AA playoffs. I'm looking at it now. I think they're going to have somewhere around 16 to 18 scholarships to fill next season.
Yeah, that's rough.
So I mean, that's brutal to me.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of sim players on this roster too. So I mean, you want any clue as to how good of a job is? See how many sims are on the roster, because that tells you how many walk-ons you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I it'll be interesting to see. So we'll watch that in the offseason. We'll definitely talk about it and bring it up. For now, we'll move on to Conference USA, the best conference, the most freedom conference, the most American conference in the world. You had number 16 Memphis. Definitely led the way majority of the season. Ended up going 12-2. A great season. East Carolina's up there. Marshall, newer coach. Myself won my second conference championship in 2 years. Took a big comeback. Went 12-2, but ended up ranked 27th because, unfortunately, I thought my out-of-conference would be a lot better. And I think I would have been ranked a lot higher if I would have actually game planned and beat Arkansas and Hat Rock in his first season there. But I had a loss to South Florida, Arkansas, and then one out after that. And then the other mid-majors, Allingham, Buck at 18. You know, he always has mediocre years, but he doesn't really schedule anybody tough. Kind of waiting for him to turn the corner. And then Texas Christian with Dev Georgas. He's been there a really long time, and he doesn't seem to be really doing much. So really the two teams to talk about, Memphis had a really good team this year. I was actually surprised I was able to pull out that comeback after making some adjustments. But I was really surprised that he's been able to do at Memphis. I mean, he's a good coach doing a good job. I mean, what do you think about some of these mid-major teams?
I think Memphis is interesting because I think as far as mid-majors go, you can definitely put together a really nice roster there. And he's got a lot of these guys coming back next season too. So I don't think he's going away anywhere. Buck 18, his scheduling tendencies, he's been like that since he was at UMass. I've complained about it before on the podcast. That's not really going to change very much. Next season, it doesn't look like he's scheduled anybody yet. But I think you look right now at the conference, TCU is going to free up this season. I think that's a nice job. I think you can go into TCU, pick off of some of those unwanted Texas and Oklahoma players and LSU players.
They don't exist.
Put together a nice roster.
They don't exist in the state of Texas or Oklahoma. I recruit in the state of Texas, and you have to fight. You don't find leftovers. You have to fight the BCS teams for every recruit you get. If you want a decent one, it's hard. Texas is a great place to recruit from, except when every single team in Texas is almost a human coach team.
Yeah.
So it's rough, but it is a great state, and you can find the hidden gems. Obviously, Ebel did it forever. Obviously, I'm trying to do it. I mean, my two leading wide receivers were both freshmen this year, so you can find them, and they are good, but it's tough. You definitely have to do a lot of research.
If you want to know how to win in Wilkinson, this is what I've always told people. Like, if you want to win in Wilkinson, you cannot come into this world and think, oh, I'm going to run my balanced offense and my balanced defense and do things the same way I'm doing it in Leahy and Rockney and Warner and whatever. What Ebel did was he came in and said, okay, I'm going to do something nobody else is doing, and nobody's going to know how to game plan for it because I don't even know how to game plan for it. And so he does this shotgun offense, and it's completely weird, and nobody's prepared for it. And he kind of takes the world over, right? I think you can go into CUSA, and this is what I would do if I'm a 1AA coach and I want to move up, take a mid-major job. Tulane, Southern Methodist, Central Florida, Rice, Tulsa, any of these schools are nice. You can find the recruits you need and just build something unique. You know, maybe somebody can bring in a dominant wishbone passing attack that we have been wanting to see for a while. Maybe somebody can try a different type of shotgun offense. Just try something unique and throw people off guard and win that way. But that's kind of where I see the CUSA is. You've got some of these weird, quirky teams. You've got a really talented Memphis team and some nice coaches here. So this is a nice conference to be in for a mid-major.
Absolutely. I mean, you just basically said my strategy right there, right? You broke that down. That's the reason why I said I'm not going to move up unless I can move to a team like Ebels who plays shotgun, because I was running shotgun in every single world, including in Division I AA, so it made sense, right? I already know the formation. I already know the playbooks. I already had them set up. I could move in. I don't have to build up the formation. I can take over that team. I can hopefully stack up some CCs and then move to an actually good BCS team and start actually competing. I'm not as good a coach as Ebel, so I'm not going to probably compete for very many national championships at Houston like he was. He clearly had the recruiting down a lot better than me. And I'm sure a couple seasons I could do it, but I'd rather put myself in a better situation if it opens up. And I'm not going to pass on a team like Rutgers if it opens up. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But definitely a good strategy. I mean, you just nailed it, right? That's why you go to a mid-major, is to kind of set yourself up for the future.
Look at Texas Christian. So, I mean, he's going to lose that job this season. He's also been to one bowl in the past 6 seasons. If you do that with any other BCS team, you're out in 4. You don't even get a chance to rebuild it. Here, you're going to get 6 to 8 seasons to really rebuild it before your job security goes down, because it's just not as tough in these mid-major teams. And that's why I think it's so valuable, is you can – consistently get to level 3, level 4 bowls. You can consistently win conference championships here and build the resume you need to pick up an elite or a really good 1A team just by hanging out in a mid-major conference. And I like where the CUSA is positioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to another mid-major conference in the Mid-American, which actually has a ton of coaches and a ton of good coaches. You got Husker Fan at Akron. They ended up 12-2. Lost in the conference championship to Bowling Green. You got Crondon over at Buffalo. In his first season, he went 9-4. Miami, Ohio, with legend Nelson B.A. You got Firmer at Ohio, who, he is who he is. And then you got Warrior at Bowling Green, coach that I don't really know at Central Michigan, and then a coach at Western Michigan. So you have 2 mid-majors in Michigan. So Lions fan can't have everything for free.
Yeah. Now, I mean, like you look at the CUSA where you're at, right? And it's a lot of, Texas and Florida and different things like that. How does one go up into, the MAC is full of teams in the state of Michigan, which does not produce a lot of recruits for itself. How would one go up and build a team in the MAC? This, to me, seems like one of the biggest challenges outside of going to Hawaii is building a MAC team.
Yeah, I mean, look at the places you have to recruit. I mean, Crondon's not too bad up in Buffalo and New York with kind of that area. I think you can definitely find some recruits that fall through the cracks just because there's so many up there. But
he's a little secluded up there.
Yeah. Some of these other places, though, I mean, in Ohio, 2 schools in Ohio with Miami, Ohio, obviously, and Akron, and then Ohio himself. I mean, it's everybody's right there, and you're all competing with the big boys. So this is definitely a more difficult mid-major conference, and you have a bunch of good coaches that want to try and stick it out. And just what Husker 26 did at Akron this year was pretty amazing.
It's Akron, right?
Yeah, I know, and I keep saying it wrong, and he keeps correcting me, and I keep saying it wrong. I just love Akron so much, and his music has just really touched my heart that I just can't help it.
The interesting thing about this is seeing a coach at Central Michigan and Western Michigan. So we now have 4 coaches in the state of Michigan. That state is not conducive to 4 human coaches. So somebody's going to get fired at some point. And I think this season, so we know the coach at Michigan State's going to be gone. Looks like this coach at Western Michigan. So last year, perfect example. Western Michigan coach last season, 4-9. He's still very secure. He's 3-10. Probably will still be very secure at during this season. Now next season he's going to start rebuilding it. But it just goes to show you get so much flexibility with the mid-major that you just don't get with the BCS.
Absolutely, you get more time, which is what you want. Especially if you're new to Division 1A, or even if you're new to Division 1A in Wilkinson, you want that extra time to be able to build a team, put your strategy in place, and figure out the recruiting side of it. So I just pulled up Central Michigan's roster, looked at where they're recruiting from. He has no Sims on this roster. That's astounding. I mean, he's got 2 kickers and 2 punters. That's a little, whatever, but it's clearly a strategy. So, yeah, he has no Sims, and then he's got people from all over the Midwest. So he definitely has Michigan. He's in Wisconsin. He's in Indianapolis, and he's in Illinois and Ohio. So he just sticks to the Midwest, finds his guys, and finds his sneaky picks. But it's extremely impressive that he has no Sims out of that mid-major with a full state of Michigan.
It's a really nice 1AA team.
Yeah. That's what you get at mid-majors. I can't lie. I had to steal some from 1AAs this year. It's what happens. Shit rolls downhill. Elites and BCS schools jump on my guys. I got to go to the weak guys, and I got to pick them off. But I will say this. The shotgun and why it works even better at mid-majors when doing a roster is I can find way more wide receivers. They're all get a start and get more playing time, so that by the time they're juniors and seniors, they're all studs, no matter where I recruit them as long as they're like a minimum of 72 rating coming in their freshman year. And then I have more roster spots for my defensive slots. So by the time my defensive players are juniors and seniors, they're all studs as well. So that helps quite a bit running that type of roster in a mid-major. Definitely helps. So, and it lets me kind of skimp a little bit on depth. So,
yep.
All right. So we'll move this along a little faster. We're going to the Pac-10. So here's my thing about the Pac-10. They have success. Stanford's always annoying, but there's really only 2 teams that compete as far as national title goes. And the funny thing about this year, Seabreak ends up as a number 1 ranked team. Nobody talked about them too much except for saying that they're having a good season, but nobody really picked them to get here. We did have some people yesterday in the Slack group say that they were going to make the jump ahead, but even 4 games ago, nobody was saying, oh, Cal, look at what they're doing. They're going to make it. So it's definitely an interesting conference. Obviously a ton of good coaches, but in my mind, there needs to be more than just 2 teams competing.
Well, I mean, it's a tough place to recruit, and I can tell you when OP and I were at UCLA, it's just brutal. I mean, you're right next door to USC with every recruit you want. If you venture out too far, you run right into Stanford, or if you go north, you're going to run into Cal. And then you've got 2 coaches at Arizona. And that state's only giving you 7 to 8 legitimate recruits. So you got 2 coaches trying to fight over that. And then what's going on in California, and there's nothing up in the Northwest. I've had a Washington school before. It's not any fun. It's just a tough place to be in a world that's this populated. So I think the way this conference is set up, you're only going to have 2-3 tops contenders for the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've coached ASU in a bunch of worlds, obviously, because I'm a fan. And I've won conference championships there, and I've had success there. And you're right. You definitely need 1 or the 2. I've seen U of A people at Arizona compete and even win national championships at a school like that. But it has to be 1 team. You can't be battling recruits. I mean, ideally, if this conference wanted to have more success, most of the California schools can still stay there and really pick off, right? Cal, Stanford, USC, and UCLA. There's enough recruits there that they can all be competitive or even, take cycles of different years. But in the Northwest, you really just need just a Washington, right? Or just a Washington State or just an Oregon. You can't have 3 or 2 guys, even 2 guys up there. There's just not enough people. There's maybe 4 recruits a year up there. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, one of the things I would keep an eye on is if BYU opens up at the end of next season, Linebecker's job may be in jeopardy. That is a nice roster, and that is a nice place to recruit. And if you go throughout GD, there's been multiple coaches who have put together nice rosters at BYU. Even some have won national titles with them. So if you're looking for a 3rd contender in the Pac-10, that's where I think it's going to come from long term, is somebody taking over BYU and finding a way to win there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something we'll definitely keep our eye on over the next 2 seasons. All right. So we go to the SEC. They had
brutal.
It's a heartbreaker, right? Trey Yeoman's a legendary coach, pulls out the CC win over AWAGS, knocks them out of the national championship. Tennessee kind of had an off season, but still another great coach in Dean Horvey. I'm still waiting for Dean. I've seen him be very successful in other worlds. I'm still waiting for him to take the next step at a decent elite. It's definitely a middle tier. There's definitely some worse. There's definitely some obviously better.
I think it's the most underrated elite is Tennessee.
I do. I mean, I've seen some coaches really take it up, and people get scared off about it because it's kind of sandwiched there, but it's still in a great recruiting area, and you usually have at least one state to yourself and a majority of some other states. So But Dean's a great coach. He's in a tough conference, unfortunately. Hat Rock at Arkansas. I mean, he beat me in the second game of the season. He had a great first year there at Arkansas, so look out for him. And then Trey Yomo just does it again and pulls out upsets with less talent at South Carolina. And according to AWAGS, it definitely seems like he kind of has his number, but it's just kind of a devastating loss to Alabama and AWAGS.
This is going to be one of the things I think is interesting to pay attention to. I know AWAGS is not like another coach having his number, but AWAGS also does not game plan a ton either. I think if another elite opens up, particularly if Ohio State opens up, you may see AWAGS leave Alabama for it. I could see him going to the Big East if he wants the competition there. And so I could see AWAGS out of a move of frustration saying, you know what, I could get an elite in any other world. I'm just going to leave here and, go compete in the Big East where it's over his favorite team, Ohio State.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
what's that?
Oh, you just cut out for a second, but it wasn't very long. Yeah, I mean, if Ohio State opens up, I definitely see him making the move because, one, he can get out. I mean, he doesn't like Bama in real life, right? So it's hard to coach a team you don't like in real life. He loves Ohio State in real life, so the emotional pulls are going to go. And then, two, he can kind of, Trey Yomo. I mean, I haven't seen many coaches have AWAG's number. He's beat CFB fan. He's beat a lot of these coaches that are around here that are constantly competing for national championships. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all, and I also wouldn't blame the guy if he moved. But I definitely expect South Carolina and Trey Yomo to keep doing what they're doing. I mean, he ended up with an SOS of 27. Let's take a look who he actually lost to because, I mean, he's definitely close to actually competing for national championships. And if you put this guy in a big game, he can pull it out just like he did this conference championship.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a loss to Missouri and Clemson, right? Completely shocking. He probably thought they were easy wins. He probably didn't go through and game plan like he did for these other ones. And then he had a 28-point loss to Bama, who he ended up beating. And then he beat Potter at Florida, and then he beat Tennessee. And then he beat Alabama and came around and beat them by 4 in the conference championship. So this is another case of a coach that when they game plan can probably beat anybody. So I'd love to see him put one full dedicated season together to see what he could do, and then look out for the SEC because you got Hat Rock at Arkansas, who's only going to do better, and then you got other good coaches like MP Mershon and Dean Horvey and, of course, Potter. So definitely a fun conference. We'll kind of see what happens in the future.
Oh, no, I think Arkansas is definitely the team to pay attention to. Yep. And when Hat Rock took that job, I was actually really excited for him. Because he's going to turn Arkansas into a contender, and he did not get an easy schedule this season. Had to play 5 humans in non-conference play. Mm-hmm. That's not easy to do, and he won 3 of them. His 2 losses, by the way, one was a 6-point loss to Missouri. The other one was a 22-point loss to Florida State. That's not easy. Then he gets Florida, Georgia, Tennessee right after that. So he started off with 8 tough human coach teams. Beat LSU at the end of the season. I think Arkansas is going to be a really fun team to watch over these next couple of seasons.
100% agree. 100% agree. It'll be fun to see what he can do when he has his guys on his roster. So it'll be fun. All right, Sun Belt. We had 2 mid-majors here to wrap up. This is another pretty dang good mid-major conference with some legendary coaches. You got Daryl Jones, Daryl Jones is very active in Slack, so I love the guy. He talks in Slack, talks in the forum. I love that. Make sure everybody knows he's there. He went 13-1. He had a good season. Obviously, his SOS isn't going to be that good when you do that, at least from a mid-major, because he only played 2 human coaches. Beat them both, though, in Georgia and Arizona State. And then he beat Slider. He beat Mr. Fortune, or Mr. Fortune 3 by a lot, and then he lost to V. Howard at Middle Tennessee, and then he ended up pulling off the conference championship against the Sims. So this is another conference mid-major that's got legendary coaches in it, a lot of good ones at some decent schools. I mean, it's interesting. They're kind of some random teams with some legends. What do you think about this one?
Oh, gosh. Well, first of all, this conference has 6 teams ranked 100th or worst. So I'm not crazy about that number. The highest team ranked is Louisiana Monroe. That's Daryl Jones, and they're ranked 30th. So, don't go here if you're looking for bowl money.
Hey, Conference USA got 28 grand. I got more than that in my Division I AA team in Yost.
Well, there you go. But, I think you look at the Sun Belt, if you're looking to take a team here, New Mexico State's obviously interesting because they're kind of secluded. The problem with this conference is Louisiana Monroe and Louisiana Lafayette are right on top of each other. Middle Tennessee's in the same area. Army and Navy are right next to each other. North Texas is right there in the thick of things too, and then Troy State's in the same area as well. And Utah State, by the way, constantly gets beat out by BYU for recruits, so that's not an easy place to be. So there's some nice things I like about this conference. I like B. Howard. I do like Daryl Jones. CJL 9652 has a lot of history in this world and does a very good job. JJL 58's got a nice track record. You do have some nice coaches, but I think, of the conferences, this to me was probably one of the least interesting conferences of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they didn't have a good season, but you got some great coaches, right? Slider's a good coach, like the other guys you talked about. And then Mr. Fortune's got 7 national championships, spread across GDs. So hopefully these guys can pick it around and make us mid-majors proud.
Well, and you're going to have some fun games. I mean, Middle Tennessee had 3 fun games. Navy, Army, Louisiana Monroe. All games that kind of came down there to the last couple of minutes. So the Sun Belt's giving you some entertainment in that realm of when, these top coaches match up against each other. It's fun, but it's just not the same as even the CUSA or the ACC right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the last one. Thanks for hanging in there with me, CJ, but we got the WAC, who in the East, they have no human coaches. So all you got to do is win your division in the West. The problem is you got to beat Pete at Hawaii.
Yeah.
And other than that, I mean, I don't know too many of these coaches. I've seen their names around. But you got Pete at Hawaii. You got Dean 1 at Fresno State. Slick Nick, which is a pretty fun name, over at San Jose State. And Johnny Dancer at UNLV. I mean, but really, it's just you got to look at Pete and what he's done since he's been there with that rebuild.
The Dean 1 is over in Rockney with me. He's at Ole Miss. He can recruit. I don't know much about his game planning. I've never lost to him. Again, you mentioned Hawaii. That obviously is the one team everybody's always chasing in this conference. And you look at Pete, I mean, this redshirt senior Joseph Patterson, absolutely ridiculous. He's got 2 solid running backs. I mean, this roster really is loaded right now. They're going to be in a bit of a rebuilding state going into next season.
Yeah, they don't have
but what Pete has done... Well, what Pete has done at Hawaii, I mean, just don't even look at the results right now. Just look at the talent on that roster and consider the fact he's getting these players out of Hawaii. That part of what he's doing is just flat out incredible. And he wins the island. He gets the players in Hawaii, but, he's got a quarterback here from Morgantown, Pennsylvania. He's going into Arizona and getting guys. He got one from El Paso, Texas. One from Nampa, Idaho, Illinois. He's venturing outside of Hawaii to find good players.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah, and I had this roster up while you were talking through that. Obviously a lot of Hawaii, and every time I look, because when I was at Arizona State, I'd go pull the best player out of Hawaii every year because they were usually a pretty good talent. You usually get maybe 1 to 3. I mean, it's really that crazy of actually decent playable talent. So, yeah, like you said, he's going far. He's his closest people. He's getting them from, Arizona, California, and so forth, and finding that talent. And, he's putting together a very solid mid-major resume so he can go and get a BCS team and work his way up. So just like kind of the game plan we talked about before, if you want to go from Division I AA, work your way up to Division 1A and get a good team, that's another good kind of game plan to follow, and he's doing it well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. To me, one of the most underrated available jobs right now, if you're a 1AA coach looking to move up, Louisiana Tech. Nobody's talking about this job. So first of all, Louisiana Tech is in a really nice recruiting area. You've got the state of Louisiana, which produces a lot of recruits. You're near the state of Mississippi. You're near that whole southeast portion. So again, you can go and pick up really nice recruits for a mid-major in that area. But the rest of this conference, you can't really say the same for that. So you're going to get a conference that doesn't have the same access you do, and there's nobody in Louisiana Tech's division right now, which means basically you get an automatic trip season 1 to that conference championship game. I think that's a great gig. You can go in there, build a nice roster, win some conference championships, and then take an elite once it opens up.
Yeah, I mean, as long as nobody's at Louisiana Monroe, you're 100% right. It's a really good recruiting spot. If you just look at how much empty space, and I have the Division 1A school coach the map up on the monitor right now, and if you look at how much empty space is around that school in southern Arkansas and East Texas, and even a lot of the state of Louisiana, you have a lot of room to recruit where you're going to have the distance advantage on people. And even going into West Mississippi, I mean, you can draw literally a very large circle on the map, and it doesn't touch a single school, and you can't say that about a lot of other places. So I'm actually surprised by that. You're 100% right. That's a great place to be.
Yeah, well, and I tell you what, their athletic director actually just called me, so I've got a missed call from him to return. I'm not sure what he wants. I guess I've been at Colorado for a couple of seasons, so maybe he's
I see.
got an idea. So,
but you do realize they haven't had – Lions fan hasn't been there, so you have to recruit your own players. I'm just kidding. But anyways, all right, so that's our last conference. Any last thoughts? Give me a prediction of Level 5 bowl games real quick. You don't have to get too much in detail. And then I'll let you go so I can dive into Division 1 AA.
All right, cool. So my computer may die in the middle of this, in which case I need you to give me the games. But we'll go quick. Fiesta Bowl, me versus Notre Dame. Take Notre Dame 35-21. He's just a great game player, but he's also got a much better roster than I do. Thanks for that, Lions fan. I'm going to blame this one on you. Orange Bowl, Oklahoma, South Carolina. I kind of like the Gamecocks in this one, although this one to me is the most entertaining Level 5 game because I just think it could go either way. We know what Trey Olmo can do when he game plans. I'm going to take South Carolina to win a close one, 34-31. Rose Bowl, West Virginia, Miami. I'm going to take Miami to win 3-0. That's a joke. No, it's going to be back and forth. There's going to be a ton of offense in this one. I think the Mountaineers probably lose this one, in which case there's going to be a lot of momentum for Miami going into next season. So I'm going to take Miami to win a high-scoring one, 48-45. Sugar Bowl, Alabama, Syracuse. I'm going to take the Orange. I love what AWAGS is doing, but Z32 throughout all of GD has been putting together just some incredible seasons. And I think that Syracuse team is really talented. It's just not being talked about because they played in the ultra-tough Big East. In the national championship game, California, Penn State. Love what Seabreak has done. But I just trust Nortonis, his game planning in that roster, in a championship spot. I think Penn State wins it 27-17, your championship game.
Awesome. That's great. So I'm only going to talk about two games. Sugar Bowl, Alabama and Syracuse. Have you seen what Z32's done on defense? Holy crap. He shut a bunch of teams out, human coach teams, kept a couple below 10, and then during conference play, other than that big loss to West Virginia, which everybody in that conference did, he didn't give up more than 24 points. And was scoring 40. I mean, that defense is unreal. I agree with you.
Defense is good.
I think I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take Z32, and then I'm actually going to take Cal. I think the unknown's going to pull through. Seabreak always got funny game plans going on. Very hard to game plan against him. He can definitely upset better talent. So I'm going to go, I mean, even though it's a 1 versus 2 and Cal's number 1, I think Cal's kind of the underdog in that game, and I'm going to go ahead and take Cal.
He's an interesting pick. I hope he sticks around Wilkinson for a long, long time. I have a ton of respect for him. Really, really cool guy.
I mean, I got to imagine making a national championship would hopefully keep your interest for a little bit, but we'll see what happens. But anyways, CJ, thank you so much for jumping on. I think we're on for just over an hour. Looks like this call is about an hour, so appreciate you sticking on for this long one. Best of luck in your bowl game, and maybe we'll catch up during the off season.
Cool. Keep me in your thoughts as I travel to Louisiana tomorrow.
Oh, good luck.
All right.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
All right, guys. Always big thanks to CJ for jumping on. give me a quick break. I probably need to refresh my drink. We've been on for an hour already, and we're going to keep going. Dive into Division I AA playoff predictions. I'm not going to go conference by conference here, just because for sake of time. And also, Nitros actually has a podcast coming up dedicated to Division I AA, so I don't want to steal his thunder. But we'll do our predictions. And actually, you know what? Why take a break? Who needs break? Breaks are for the week. We're going to jump right in it. We're going to give our predictions. We're going to let Nitros, I think his podcast is actually already up. So click the link, listen to it later tonight, listen to it tomorrow, and then we'll get going. And then I'll see you guys in the off season. All right, so in the North Division, number 1 ranked William & Mary, who's actually been crushing everybody all season, comes in at 14-0. I got him obviously winning this, right? He's going to beat Yale. I have him beating Youngstown State with Stearns in the second round. And then I have Northern Iowa. This one's tough. Let's pause really quick. So Drake's got an amazing roster. Had a little bit of a down season as far as the wins and losses goes. He actually lost to a sim. So I don't know quite what School Me's doing their game planning. Northern Iowa, on the other hand, went 13-1. Finished the season ranked number 9. And had some good wins. Beat Eastern Kentucky, lost to a Mr. Aston, which is a great thing, and actually beat Youngstown State. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one to Northern Iowa over Drake. And then we got Sanford versus Villanova. I'm going to go ahead and give it to Mr. Aston and Sanford. And then I'm going to have Mr. Aston once again winning again, going in the semifinals of this bracket, playing William & Mary, but unfortunately losing to William & Mary. William & Mary advances to the Final Four. In the South, we got Georgia Southern and J9, who was my team last year to upset a lot of people. Love this team, love this coach. I have him winning pretty far, but he had a great season. Great season. Love this team, love this coach. Going up against Florida Atlantic, not the best season, but I got Georgia Southern winning. I got Jacksonville State, who already has a win over Dayton this year, and Alec TX 2015. Let's see what the score was that game. 33-14. The Jacksonville team's got a lot of talent on it too. Expect them to go play Georgia Southern. Expect Georgia Southern to beat Jacksonville State. I got Weber State beating Princeton. Love what Seth's doing down here. Got to give a little love to my old Big Sky teammate. And I have Weber State beating Princeton. And we got Robert Morris playing against North Fork State. I do have Robert Morris winning that one, losing to Weber State. So I got number 6 playing number 1. And I got yet another one going to the Final Four. All right, Delaware State. Everybody's surprised. Not really a surprise team. One of many, I would say one of 3 rebuilds that are finally coming into their own this year. A great season, undefeated, 14-0. Obviously, his conference doesn't have a ton of teams on it, but he has some very impressive out-of-conference wins, beating Jacksonville State and Stephen F. Austin. Both playoff teams, both teams I'm going to predict to go far. So I'm going to have in Delaware State's going to go ahead and beat Alabama A&M. One of those teams that he beat in out-of-conference, Jeff C. 7823, who just discovered the Slack chat. Apparently, he doesn't listen or read anything in the forums, but he's there now. That's all that matters. And Stephen F. Austin. I have him beating Jacksonville, my old team. The problem is Timber Drive is a very inconsistent coach, and inconsistent almost in a good way, to where he has losses like 34-6 against Robert Morris and 30-16 against Weber State, and then he beats teams like Dayton, who have way more talent than him, and obviously Charleston Southern's not that good. So it's definitely close, but I definitely have Stephen F. Austin winning that one. Jeff C. is just doing too many good things there, and he's definitely going to pull that one out. Then you got Delaware State and Stephen F. Austin. Jag's just too good of a coach. You know, I know it's the second meeting against these team. Jeff C's a great coach too, but this is the 4th or 5th year of the rebuild for Jag. I definitely expect him to win that one. Move on to the semis. In the bottom, you got, this is probably the biggest first round game in Division I AA playoffs with Texas Southern and Texas State. Texas Southern is having a down year. Phi's having a down year too, but he still has a very talented team. This one is going to be close. It's going to be the year of the struggles. But with all the talent on that Texas State team, and with Phi being the coach, and, you know, I have a little bit Big Sky bias, I'm going to go ahead and pick Phi in that Texas State team. And then you got Sam Houston State with Bama. This is only Bama's, what, second year? Yeah, second year here, doing a rebuild. Chetty in Maine. I think I'm like 0-12 against Chetty in the last 3 seasons because I've played him in 2 different worlds, and I lose to him in both worlds every single time. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Maine. Sets up a match between Texas State and Maine. I got Chetty playing Delaware State, and I have Chetty going on, my first number 2, making it out of the East region and into the Final Four. All right, the last region we have, who's this? Arkansas Pine Bluff, another great rebuild coming in as the number 1 seed against Savannah State. Obviously, they're going to make it. And then I got not Grambling State. I got Tennessee Tech playing Arkansas Pine Bluff. They're going to make it through the semis. I got St. Mary's winning that game in their first round. I got Marist beating Lehigh. I got St. Mary's being Marist. And I got Arkansas Pine Bluff being Marist to get to the Final Four. Now, in my championship game, I am taking a rebuild in Arkansas Pine Bluff to go up against William and Mary. And I got William and Mary winning it all. That offense, that defense, it's all going to click. Duke Legends got that team playing very well, and I think he's going to just sweep it and go ahead and win the entire thing. But on a caveat, there are a lot of teams that can win this. There's a lot of great coaches at rebuilds that are coaching out of their mind. They got good talent on their teams finally, and you never know what OP is going to be able to do. So very interesting to see. Should be a fun season. I'm going to go listen to Nitros's podcast and get an even better breakdown of the season in Division I AA. Also, guys, go check out the Maze. Husker's been putting out great stuff like every other day. It's been keeping me going since I haven't been doing my podcast. Jag threw some stuff up there. Blitz had a bunch of analytics and all the other guys doing stuff. If you're not already in the Slack channel, site mail me because I think the invite in the forums is dead, and I will get you in there. But everybody's in there constantly throughout the day talking about different stuff and having fun. But thanks again for coming back, guys. I said I was going to do a long one. Hopefully this makes up for being a little late. And we'll probably be back after the national championship to kind of recap the season, talk about some off-season stuff, job change period, and then, of course, our recruiting specials that we do. And hopefully we'll be back a lot more consistently after that for next season. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on the other side.